As of May 27th, 2022, Breeze Airways has been flying commercially for 1 year. Back a few years ago, when they had first announced their intentions, some speculated, despite the founder being none other than David Neeleman, that the US airline market was already too saturated. And then the COVID-19 pandemic erupted, causing even more doubt. Then, to make matters even worse, suddenly another airline entrepreneur named Andrew Levy announced that he too would be starting a small, narrow-body airline called Avelo. And just 20 days after announcing initial routes, they did just that. They launched. And their planes were full, and they had done it before Breeze, which had been in development far longer than Avelo. Now, with heightened gas prices, mighty airline alliances, and major airline mergers, is little one-year-old Breeze Airways finally in the clear, or have they entered an unwinnable fight? Originally, when Neeleman dreamt up this new airline, he had seen the recent but somewhat stunted success of Allegiant Air and Sun Country Airlines. These carriers did things different from the big players like Southwest and Delta. Those two rely heavily on multi-leg, high-capacity strategies. Instead, passengers flying on Sun Country or Allegiant almost never have to get on a second flight to get to their destination. This kind of flying is called point-to-point. Allegiant Air could do this and not have to rely on connections because they mainly were funneling passengers into either Las Vegas or Florida. Sun Country, on the other hand, was able to fly point-to-point efficiently, not because of limited destinations, but because of their limited origin point, Minneapolis. If you're not from Minnesota, there's a good chance you've never even heard of this airline. And again, that's because they mainly only fly out of one place, making point-to-point flying their default business strategy. The thing with having limited destinations or origins is just that, limitation. These airlines, for the most part, weren't straying from their proven safe business models. And on top of that, were pretty much just shuttling people down south to sunny destinations. I mean, the word sun is literally in Sun Country's name, and there's a big sun on every Allegiant plane. But there are a lot of places in the US that aren't sun-filled vacation spots, and that's specifically where Neeleman saw not only an opportunity, but a need. He envisioned using the brand new, highly capable Canadian-made 100-seater Bombardier CS-100 flying point-to-point to and from all the small to medium airports that were being ignored by not only Allegiant Air and Sun Country, but also by even regional carriers like Compass and Endeavor. Should this hypothetical airline do well, the CS-100's crazy long range would allow the airline to even encroach on the bigger airlines' turf down south in the Caribbean, and potentially even continental South America, a market endeared by Neeleman. Pitched with confidence and excitement, private investors were sold by Neeleman and happily signed checks over to him. The airline was a go. In late May of 2021, years later, and a month after Avelo, Breeze Airways took off. But it wasn't the CS-100, now A220, that was being sprayed with champagne. It was an Embraer E190, similar in size to the A220, but with considerably shorter range. So what had happened? Well, the COVID pandemic created work bottlenecks and unknown risks since no one knew how long the diminished demand for air travel would last. What was known? Suddenly, used airplane prices plummeted, and since no one really knew when aircraft manufacturing lines would ramp up again, Neeleman pounced, acquiring E190s from multiple sources, eventually amounting to 13 of the small Embraer jets. So that's what they began their operations with, and things actually went pretty well, having gone from about 15 destinations offered in their first month to about double that today. Plus, they've upped their A220 order book to a total of 80 of the type to be delivered by the end of 2028. Even the feared competition from rival Avelo ended up being unneeded, as Breeze, despite being headquartered in Salt Lake City, really focused on serving the East, whereas Avelo focused on the West from Burbank. That was until May 2021, when they began flying out of New Haven, Connecticut, just an hour south of Breeze's established base in Hartford. Still, the two airlines mainly are not, at least currently, competitors. So in the point-to-point market, you've got Breeze in the east, Sun Country in the north, Avelo in the west, and Allegiant in the heartland, all mainly avoiding each other and sticking to their strengths. That said, Breeze has just gotten started. As previously mentioned, they're planning on taking 80 A220s and growing their route network considerably. Despite this, they actually don't want to step on anybody's toes. in the metro areas that they do plan on entering that already have airline service, should a route already be served by one of those other airlines, Breeze will attempt to use a minor airport that doesn't get served by the bigger airlines, kind of like what Southwest does in Chicago and Dallas. But that doesn't mean that they're completely avoiding big name airports. One of their routes out of Las Vegas is to Syracuse, New York. One from LAX is to Providence, Rhode Island. So when they are flying out of mega hubs, they're flying routes that are underserved or entirely not served at all. As such, it seems apparent that Breeze isn't chasing the market, and instead appears to be making their own. Build it and they will come. This is the perfect strategy. This airline's formative years will go largely uncontested, and therefore is almost all but guaranteed to, at the very least, not fail. And in fact, Breeze Airways just might thrive and grow to be a major US airline. Believe it or not, starting up airlines is actually a pretty common occurrence. There's another US airline startup supposedly taking flight later this year called Northern Pacific Airways. But their business model seems to be somewhat questionable. You can learn about that from the video on the right. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're subscribed, I'll see you in the next one.